Today we're going to be looking at some creepy unsolved missing person cases.
This is a case of 26-year-old Prisma Reyes and how she vanished after having lunch with an ex-boyfriend. On Wednesday, April 17, 2019, Prisma went to go work at her new job at a car dealership. She pulled into work and she was able to find a really good parking spot. However, one of her coworkers actually confronted Prisma and accused her of stealing her preferred spot. They got into a little bit of an argument and Prisma reported this to her superiors and then just continued on with her day. At around noon, Prisma left the car dealership and went to go on her lunch break. Went to go eat at a Tex-Mex restaurant, and she actually went to go eat with her ex-boyfriend Ryan. They enjoyed some food and drinks together, and after a while, Ryan left the restaurant. However, some witnesses say that Ryan and Prisma got into an argument during this lunch, and that's why Ryan left. However, we don't know if that's actually what went down. After her ex-boyfriend Ryan left, Prisma stayed at the restaurant for another 3 hours. She was by herself, and throughout these 3 hours, she called her son's babysitter, and they spoke on the phone for an hour. When asked about this conversation, the babysitter says that they simply spoke about her job, and they also spoke about what time Prisma was gonna go to pick up her son. After this, Prisma continued to remain at the bar for another 2 hours until the bartender eventually had to cut her off. They got into some type of verbal argument, but the specifics of this argument have never been released by police. After this verbal argument, Prisma was asked to leave the restaurant. After leaving the restaurant, Prisma got inside her white Jeep Wrangler and she headed in the direction of the dealership. On her way back to the car dealership, Prisma got into another altercation, but this time it was a road rage incident where she pulled on another driver. This driver called the police, but by the time they got there, Prisma was gone. After this incident, Prisma continued to make her way to her job, but then she actually did a U-turn and instead of going to work, she began making her way to her ex-boyfriend's apartment. Security footage shows Prisma parking her car outside of the apartment building, and she kind of parked her car at an angle where it was kind of blocking an intersection. It seems like she was just gonna park quickly, get down, and then get back in her car and leave. After parking her car, Prisma quickly gets out and runs through the security gate to quickly get in before it closes. Once Prisma makes it inside, she heads over to the parking garage elevators, and that's when we see her pacing back and forth, speaking on the phone. She called multiple friends and family members during this time, expressing to them that she was upset about something. After speaking on the phone for several minutes, Prisma gets inside the elevator, and that's when she runs into another resident of the building. Now, this resident told police that Prisma got into the elevator and that she was crying and that she appeared very distraught. It just didn't seem like she was okay, and this resident says that they don't remember what floor Prisma got off on. That is the last surveillance footage of Prisma Reyes. She never showed up at the babysitter's house to pick up her son, and that's when the babysitter reported her missing. Police say there's no footage of Prisma ever getting inside the apartment building or leaving. Okay, more in part 2.
Okay, so that is very, very creepy. It's just weird, isn't it? It's like, why was she sat in a restaurant for 3 hours with her ex-boyfriend and then, like she said, for another 2 hours? Why was she sat in a restaurant for like 6 hours? She looks like you. Honestly, I was gonna say she kind of did look like the person who was making the video. 3-hour lunch break, 4 arguments. Oh my god, exactly, like something was going on. Was she okay? Was she maybe going through something?
This is part 2 on the disappearance of 26-year-old Prisma Reyes. They say that there's no footage of Prisma actually getting inside the apartment building or leaving. Some of the exits throughout the building didn't have any cameras, so police can't prove if she actually left. On top of that, police also found Prisma's car still parked in the same spot, so if she did leave, it wasn't with her car. Now, since Prisma had gone to lunch with her ex-boyfriend earlier that day and then was last seen trying to get into his apartment building, police wanted to go speak to the ex. Police went to go speak to Ryan, and he says that the last time he saw Prisma was at lunch. He told police that he actually had a date that night, so as soon as lunch ended, he got inside his car and he went out of town for this date. He says he didn't return to his apartment until around midnight. But of course, police still searched his apartment and they also searched his car and they didn't find anything. They also checked his alibi, and his phone records did show that he was out of town at the time that Prisma was at his apartment. Police went to go speak to the employees at the restaurant where Prisma and Ryan had lunch. The employees at the restaurant say that Ryan didn't introduce himself as Ryan, he actually introduced himself as Matt. He was also wearing a hat and sunglasses during this time. Now, police thought this was weird, like why would you use a fake name while at a restaurant, and why were you wearing a hat and sunglasses inside? So police went to go question him about this, and Ryan says that yes, he was wearing a hat and sunglasses, but he denies ever calling himself Matt. After confirming his alibi and checking his apartment and his car for evidence and not finding any, police have cleared Ryan from the investigation. However, a few days after Prisma's disappearance, he did pack up all his things and he moved out of the apartment, which some people find a little bit odd. Prisma Reyes was last seen in 2019, and to this day in 2023, she is still missing. Her family does believe that foul play was involved because she would never willingly abandon her son. She absolutely adored her son, and she was calling the babysitter earlier that day about what time she was going to go pick him up. But she didn't plan to abandon him. The family tries to hold on to hope that their daughter is still alive, but they believe that she might have been sex trafficked or kidnapped. A lot of people do wonder about the ex-boyfriend. Just because his phone records show that he was out of town during that time doesn't mean that he was actually out of town. Some people do wonder if they did get into an altercation at the restaurant and then Prisma decided to go to his apartment later that night to kind of talk things over. And when she got to his apartment, something bad happened. On the other hand, some people find the babysitter suspicious. The family themselves say that they didn't find out about Prisma's disappearance through the babysitter, they actually found out through the police. And they find this odd. If the babysitter was the one that made the 911 call and reported Prisma as missing, why wouldn't she call the family to let them know, hey, your daughter is missing, or have you seen your daughter? If you know anything about what happened to Prisma, please contact the number on the screen.
That whole situation's just so weird, isn't it? It's like something about it is fishy, something about it is screaming foul play. What if the babysitter is with the ex-BF and they plan this out because she's probably in love with her ex still? I don't know, but something about that was just very fishy, and like it's just weird, isn't it? It's the fact that like she went in there and she was seen going in, but she was never seen leaving. So it's like, is she still in there? I don't know, that's just weird, isn't it?
The Missing Persons UK website is the most disturbing website I've ever seen, really. When you open up this website, this is the warning that comes up. You probably think, oh, well, why have they put it on a website? Well, they are trying to identify missing people. They're trying to identify people that they found who are unknown. They're Jane and John Doe's, and all they've got to go off was what they found the person in. They've got no other information, and they're trying to identify these people. This is why they've got a whole section dedicated to unidentified cases. This website is not for people who are sensitive to disturbing images. As disturbing as it may be, it is worth looking at because at the end of the day, you might be able to identify one of these unidentified cases. Out of the respect of the people who are missing, I'm not going to just show these people on TikTok. That's something you can maybe go look at. But some of the other things they show are articles they found with the people that might just jog someone's memory as to, oh, such and such used to wear that and I've not seen her for however long. So yes, it might be the creepiest website I've ever found, but at the core of it, it's super important and it's doing a job, albeit with some very creepy images in the process.
Okay, so I've actually been in that website before. It's not necessarily gruesome stuff. It's just kind of like, like drawings of people and stuff that people were wearing. But it's just weird to think that the items of clothing that you've seen in that TikTok and the drawings of people are actual people. They're missing. They don't actually know who they are. But it's like that person will have friends and family. It's just weird, isn't it? I've been on it and it's not that bad, to be honest. Like, I was expecting someone's head bashed in. I guess I watched too much true crime. Exactly, that's what I was like whenever I first found out about it. I was thinking, oh my god, you're going to see like really gruesome photos you'd see in like a horror film. But nah, it's basically photos of, like clothing and like sketches of people. Yet again, it is just weird to think that, them sketches and the clothing is somebody's clothes. That is what they were in whenever they were found. It's fascinating how there's people on there from the early 2000s who have never been identified by their families. Exactly, like, it's just weird, isn't it? It's like there's people on that website who've been missing for tens of years, and it's like no one really knows who they were, like what happened to them, because if they did, they wouldn't be on that website.
Imagine being on the phone with your son and hearing the exact moment he disappeared forever. That's what happened to the parents of Brandon Swanson, who mysteriously vanished in 2008. That year, on May 14th, Brandon went out to celebrate the end of classes with his friends. After attending a couple of parties, he decided to drive home. However, instead of taking the most direct route, he drove through a farming road and accidentally ended up in a ditch. Brandon was okay, but he called his parents asking them to come and fetch him. But although they drove around the area he told them he was in for hours, they couldn't find him in the dark. He then suggested they meet in the parking lot of a nearby nightclub and decided to cross a field to take a shortcut. Brandon's father was on the phone with his son, and he suddenly heard him shout, "Oh, before the call was cut off. Brandon's phone was turned off after that, and he was never seen again. Despite the extensive search effort involving police dogs, air surveillance, and hundreds of volunteers, the teen's disappearance still remains a mystery.
But did they ever find the phone? Because that's just weird. So obviously something's happened, where he's got lost and he wants his parents to help him, figure out where he is so he can get to them. He's on the phone with them, he decides to get out of the car, and then he screams, "Oh no," and ends the call. I don't know exactly when that happened, but I was thinking maybe they could track the phone, or like, did they ever find the phone? Yet again, it's just weird how he literally disappeared while he was on the phone. And it's the fact that like something happened to him, but nobody knows what happened. Parents' worst nightmare, exactly, and it's also the fact that they're on the phone with him. Like, that makes it even worse.
Have you ever heard of Lisa Irwin? Lisa was born in Kansas City, Missouri on November 11th of 2010. Her parents were Jeremy Irwin and Deborah Bradley. Lisa was a sweet baby girl and she loved her two older brothers. On October 4th of 2011, Jeremy came home from work about 4 in the morning. When he arrived home, all of the doors were open and the lights were all on. When he went inside to check, baby Lisa was gone and he and Deborah started looking for her frantically before eventually calling police. Deborah was questioned about what happened and she said that she last checked on Lisa at about 10:30 p.m. the night before. The FBI quickly got involved and they started searching for a stranger who could have possibly entered the home and kidnapped Lisa. Jeremy had noticed 3 cell phones missing from the home and 2 witnesses came forward saying that they had seen a man on the streets with a baby that only had a diaper on about 2 in the morning. But investigators would soon narrow in on Deborah. During an initial search, a cadaver dog hit in Jeremy and Deborah's room. There may have been a body near their bed. Deborah also admitted to police that she wasn't sure when was the last time she had checked on Lisa because she had been drinking with a friend the night before. Deborah also failed a polygraph test, but she told police she had no idea why because she was not involved in her daughter's disappearance, she didn't know where she was, and she didn't know what had happened. Part 2 will be up tonight.
Okay, so we do have part 2 and we're about to watch, but that's weird, isn't it? So obviously the mother came forward and said, you know, she checked in her 10:30 the night beforehand, but then like a few days later she was talking about how she was drinking and she wasn't sure, and then she took like a poly lie detector test and she failed it, but she doesn't know why. And then also like that dog sniffed like a dead body. Usually if a dog can sniff a dead body, that means a dead body's been there. That kind of reminds me of like the Madeleine McCann case, because I swear a dog was able to sniff like a dead body. It's just weird, isn't it? It's like, what is going on?
This is part 2 to the disappearance of Lisa Irwin. So Lisa, who was about to turn 1 year old, disappeared on October 4th of 2011 from her home in Kansas City, Missouri. There were a few leads that police were investigating that included a man that was seen on the streets around 2 a.m. in the morning around the area that was holding a baby, and the baby just had a diaper on. But when they looked into this lead, the man that they found had a solid alibi and it turned out to be a dead end. So police continued to look at Lisa's mother, Deborah. There were a couple of strange things from the house that police had found, including a debit card and 3 or 5 cell phones that were missing from the house. The debit card that was stolen was Lisa's, and it was used on a British website for legal name changes for children. There was a charge for $69.09, but nothing came of this lead. And one of the cell phones that was stolen had made a 50-second call. The phone call that was placed was made to a woman named Megan Wright. What's strange about this phone call is that Megan was once in a relationship with a man named John Tanko, and John was a person of interest in Lisa's case. But police decided that this was also a dead end. Lisa would be 11 years old today, but there have been absolutely no traces of her since the day that she went missing. There are a few theories that there is a girl in Greece that is Lisa, and there's a lot of different theories going around on the internet about what actually happened to Lisa. But nothing solid has ever come out about these theories. But investigators do believe that Lisa's mother, Deborah, is involved and they just don't have enough evidence to arrest her. Jeremy and Deborah remain hopeful that Lisa will one day be found, and the case is still open and being actively investigated. You can do a deep dive into this case, and I highly encourage you do that because there's a lot more information out there. But what are your thoughts on this? Let me know down in the comments and follow for more true crime.
I mean, from my perspective, it seems like the mum maybe knows a lot more than what she's saying. It's just so weird, isn't it? And yet again, you know, whenever someone goes missing, it's the fact that they went missing. You know, that little girl went missing. It's not like she, you know, turned up a day later. She still hasn't been found. Like, they don't know where she is. It's just so weird, isn't it? Like, I hate it. Sounds like some of these dead ends weren't really dead ends. I'm thinking she sold her daughter. It's also the fact, like, there was a charge on her debit card about, like, changing a name. It's just weird, isn't it? It's like loads of things that just don't add up. I'm with you. I'm convinced since the mum knows where she went or what happened, Lisa may never know she's Lisa until she's 18 or maybe gets an ancestry test. A lot of people in the comments are alluding to maybe she was sold or, you know, put up for adoption, but obviously, you know, the mum got money for it. Is that like an actual real thing? Can you basically sell children for money? I mean, they swear it's like trafficking, but it's weird. It's just like the mum quite clearly knows a lot more. The mum is definitely involved, exactly like the mum knows something but isn't telling us. I would be interested to know what their finances were like before and after. I mean, me too, but you also have to keep in mind maybe they put the money in like a secret account. Because think of it, if your child goes missing and you get a big sum of money, the police are obviously gonna look at that and think it's a bit suspicious. But I don't know, it's just weird. It's also the fact their story changed like 15 times.
Have you ever heard of Caitlyn Dennison? Caitlyn was a beautiful and vibrant girl who went missing when she was only 19 years old. She lived in Reno, Nevada, and one night she met a trucker who lived in Midland, Texas. On January 9th of 2018, Caitlyn called her family out of the blue and said that she was flying with this man to Midland, Texas. It was the very next day that Caitlyn called her sister from Midland and told her that sometimes this man made her afraid for her life. Her sister, alarmed by this comment, asked her to send her her location. She was at a Walmart in Midland. This would be the last time that her family ever heard from her. Initially, police didn't take this case very seriously, and Caitlyn's family had to push them to really look into her case. And when police finally started looking into it, they were able to track down the trucker. They interviewed him and his mother. This trucker said that Caitlyn had been looking for jobs, but she was facing continuous rejection. Then one night while he was sleeping, Caitlyn got up, gathered all of her things, and walked out the door, and he hadn't seen her since. Then on August 24th of 2018, a woman released this Ring camera footage from her home. She lived in Montgomery, Texas, and she was asking questions about this woman. Apparently, this woman was going to multiple homes in the area and ringing the doorbell. She appears to be handcuffed, and some people speculate that she might be pregnant as well. It's important to note that there is some talk that Caitlyn was pregnant when she went missing. Many people believe that this could be Caitlyn, but police came out saying that they had found this woman and she was a DV survivor who had escaped her boyfriend. But many people still disagree and think that this could be Caitlyn. There has been no trace of Caitlyn since she went missing, but what's even more chilling is 10 years earlier, her cousin Brandon Dennison was also kidnapped and murdered.
Ooh.
I'll cover that case tonight in a kind of part 2. But what are your thoughts on this? Let me know down in the comments and follow for more true crime.
Okay, so I don't think we got part 2, but basically her cousin went missing and was killed 10 years before. That's weird, isn't it? But yet again, it's also the fact that like she was with someone, she was texting her sister, you know, saying, oh yeah, I'm like really scared around him. That's just so eerie. It's also the fact that it's like no one knows where she is, you know, no one ever found her. Such a beautiful girl. Police are always mishandling missing adults. Families are never listened to and they know exactly. It's like a family knows whenever something's up. And yet again, I swear of all these cases, the police never take it serious, and then whenever they do take it serious, it's too late. Her cousin was taken 10 years prior, very sus. I want to say it's the man she was traveling with, but after hearing that ... So then the original poster responded with, yup, she was missing for about a month and found murdered. Her murderer was caught and sentenced to life. I posted her story if you're interested. Okay, so we don't have that story, but oh, it's just weird, isn't it? It's the fact that she's missing and her cousin was abducted. Obviously, you know, the person who done it to her cousin's in jail, so it can't be him. But I've got a feeling it might be the trucker. Well, anyways, guys, that's some creepy missing people's cases that were never solved. Hopefully one day they will be solved, because you have to keep in mind they are people, friends and families. Anyways, that is the end of the video. If you want to see me do more creepy videos like this, let me know, definitely will. Press the big red subscribe button and see you all tomorrow for another video.